All right, hello everybody. Welcome to your very favorite Bronze Age comic book podcast, Flea Market Fantasy. I'm your co-host, Mike Gell, and as always, I'm joined by
Michael Dell of the LCS Hockey Radio Show.
That's right, and in celebration of a movie that is currently making hundreds of dollars at the box office all across North America, we are going to be reviewing New Mutants. Number, what is this, 22?
Number 22 from December 1984. Now, Mike L., this is the second New Mutants book that you have picked.
That's right.
And the first one was earlier. I think it was like issue 6 or something.
I think it was 4 or something, yeah.
Something like that. And it was Chris Claremont and Sal Buscema with Bob McLeod inking. And back then you said you were doing it because they had a movie coming out.
That's right.
And now you're doing this one because they have a movie coming out.
Yes. I'm not sure if you're aware, Mike Dell, but this movie's been delayed like 16 times, so...
So in like a few weeks, will you have another New Mutants issue because they had a movie come out?
Who knows, right? You never know with this show. No, the movie, as we're recording this, the movie should be... Actually, it should be released tonight, which is Thursday, August 27th. But, I mean, like I said earlier, I don't know how much money this thing's going to make because, obviously, theater attendance is limited, so we'll see how it goes. But the movie is definitely coming out to theaters, so...
And have you heard any reviews so far?
Not any current reviews, but during shooting, I heard some pretty negative things because apparently there was massive reshoots. Like, they shot the entire movie, and then they didn't like the way it was turning out, so they reshot it. Then the studio didn't like the way that turned out, so then they reshot it again, and that's all I really know. So, judging by the quality of X-Men Dark Phoenix, this could be a big piece of crap.
I like the posters for it and stuff. They look good.
Yeah. I like the actors.
I like that girl that plays Rain. She looks like Rain.
Right.
But the kid that's playing Cannonball looks nothing like Cannonball.
That's true.
And the girl playing like Danny Moonstar looks nothing like Danny Moonstar.
That's true. Roberto looks nothing like Roberto.
But other than that,
it looks great. But I do have to say, even though the girl playing Magic does not look like Magic, she looks exotic enough that she could be, yeah. So, anyway.
Yeah, so those are the 5 in the film. The Magic, Danny, Cannonball, Sunspot, and Rain.
Right.
So, are we missing anyone from the... Well, I guess Karma was in the original...
Right, I think she was in the first 7 issues, and then I think just to be shocking, they wrote her out.
Yeah, I don't know why that happened. But she was
just to be shocking, I think.
She was in the first issue we did. So in this issue, 22, this is written by Chris Claremont and Bielson Kevich is the artist. I'm very excited to talk about that in a bit.
Yep.
But we have some new characters here, Michael.
That's right.
We have Magma.
Yeah.
Now, do you know about Magma's backstory?
I gotta say yes, and visually incredible, backstory not so incredible. I know that she is...
I don't know. I think her backstory's pretty, crazy.
Okay, don't get me wrong. It's a very cool idea. I just don't know if it fits in a New Mutant story. But yeah, she lives in a lost Roman colony in South America, Nova Roma, right?
Correct. It was kind of like, I don't know why it was hidden or whatever, but it's in like the Brazilian Amazon jungle.
Right.
And the New Mutants stumble upon her because her father was one of the senators in this colony, and I think he was killed, and he sent her away to save her, so she went out living in the jungle, and the New Mutants stumbled upon her for some reason. I can't remember what they were doing, but they found her. And do you know who the leader of Nova Roma was, Michael?
Oh, man. I do not remember, no.
Well, that is Selene, the Dark Priestess.
Okay.
And the soon-to-be Dark Queen, the Black Queen of the Hellfire Club. And she's in this issue as well. So that's why Selene's here.
Okay.
She ties into Magma. And what else do we need to know about Magma? What about her powers, Michael? Can you tell us about her powers?
I don't know exactly how you define her powers, but I believe it has something to do with magma itself. Like it says here she creates earthquakes, but I think that she controls magma that therefore creates earthquakes, correct?
Yeah, she can move the tectonic plates and stuff for the earthquakes, and she can create little volcanoes by having the magma pop up out of the surface. Right. And she looks like her whole body's made of lava, and she's on fire. When she's using her powers, when she's using her powers.
I just gotta say, even as a kid, the first time I saw her, what a way to depict someone, right, who's covered in magma, because usually in comics everything's black and white with color kind of just added on as an afterthought, but her fire pattern is actually created with red ink, which I think is so cool.
And she can project plasma beams and stuff like that as well.
Right.
And her real name, we should say, is Amara Aquila. And her first appearance was New Mutants issue 8, 1983, and she was created by Claremont and Sal Buscema and Bob McLeod, the three of them. We also have another member of the New Mutants. I don't know if he's an official member of the team at this point. He seems pretty new. But Warlock is also in this issue.
Right.
And for those who don't know, explain who Warlock is, Michael.
He is an alien, a techno-organic life form.
Yes.
So he's living metal, and he's constantly changing shape. He doesn't really have a fixed appearance, I don't think. I think he can take on the form of anything he wants. And he also feeds by converting matter, or sucking the energy out of organic matter, and then converting the matter into techno-organic metal, I think, right?
Yes.
And then
his body, we should say, it's kind of depicted as black and yellow circuitry.
Right.
It's very much like circuitry. And he's usually, like you said, he can change into whatever shape he wants, but Sienkiewicz always, in other artist dramas, angular and kind of chaotic looking. His head is all weird, and also like a cartoon character. He's very exaggerated expressions, right? And yes,
it's almost like his eyes and mouth are sometimes barely connected, like a Bugs Bunny or something. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say his first appearance was New Mutants 18, so just a few months earlier, and he was created by Claremont and Sienkiewicz.
Right, and his speech pattern, right?
Yes.
Instead of saying my friend Danny, he says self-friend Danny, right? And instead of saying,
he talks weird.
He says self, So I don't know why he couldn't figure that out over the years, but whatever.
Well, he's kind of a robot. Maybe he thinks we talk wrong,
Right, could be.
He comes from some unnamed planet. I don't think they ever named the planet, do they?
Not at this point, no.
And the reason why he's a mutant is because he's different on his world than everyone else. Because on his world, Michael, when the children are born, there come a point where they have to fight their parents to the death.
Right.
And only one can survive. And his dad was Magus.
Right.
M-A-G-U-S. And he was the leader of that world. And when it came time to fight, Warlock is kind of like a pacifist guy. He didn't want to fight. So that made him different than everyone else on his world. So he fled. And his dad chased him across the universe. And the New Mutants helped save Warlock.
Is that really all that it takes to qualify him as a mutant?
The fact that he's different than everyone else on his world, yes.
Huh. Okay.
So.
I didn't know that.
But again, he's circuitry. So,
Right.
Whatever. Here, he's way different. Yeah.
One other thing I got to point out about him that I did not realize until recently. Okay, so I'm sure you've come across the name Warlock somewhere else in Marvel Comics, right?
Adam Warlock.
That's right. Do you remember what Adam Warlock's primary antagonist was?
Ooh. Yeah, wasn't he created to kill somebody or fight somebody?
Well, he eventually meets a guy that looks exactly like him, except he's evil and has an afro, and he's all kind of whitish blue, and his name is the Magus, which is also the name of Warlock's father, the Magus or Magus.
I had no idea. Yeah, I don't know much
Yeah.
about Adam Warlock.
But it's weird because I read both comics for 20 years before going, oh, wait a minute, they're the same names, like the exact same. And so apparently this was Claremont's like tribute to Warlock, even though Warlock had only like been killed off like 2 years earlier in Marvel Comics. So I don't know.
Now this Magus guy you say that Warlock is fighting, is he a Kree guy?
No. Well, I don't want to spoil it for you, but he is a human. Yeah, he looks almost exactly like Warlock, except he has an afro.
Huh.
Yeah.
Because the issue I'm picking next has a guy who's Kree with an afro.
Oh.
And I was wondering if it was the same person, but I probably not. I don't know.
Tantalizing. All right.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, Magma and Warlock, they're rounding out this New Mutants team, and like we said, there's no Karma, but we still have Cannonball, Rain, Sunspot, Danny Moonstar. And, well, Magic is here, right? But is she part of the team yet, or is she just hanging around? Or?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know.
I think we see her at one point, don't we? Or
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Yeah, because I read ahead, Michael, so I'm confusing which issue had which stuff.
Okay.
But yeah. Anyway, all right. So we mentioned Selene, the future Black Queen of the Hellfire Club. Her first appearance was New Mutants 9, 1983. Created by Claremont and Sal Buscema, and she was born 17,000 years ago, Michael.
Really?
She's a psychic vampire who steals the life force of her victims to remain young, and she has telepathy, telekinesis, pyrokinesis, and she's a sorceress. She was like we said, she was the Black Priestess that controlled Nova Roma. So now she's coming into the United States here. I think she's here to find. Magma, seems like. And in this issue, she hooks up with the Hellfire Club. Now, I love the Hellfire Club, Michael.
Me too.
The first appearance as the actual Hellfire Club is X-Men 129, which is also the first appearance of Kitty Pryde, 1980.
Right. Monumental issue. Yep,
and they're created by Claremont and John Byrne. So the Hellfire Club, would you like to explain them?
They're basically like we're kind of like a secret society, and they're ultra rich, club in like New York, and there's the inner circle is like composed of people that kind of dress in, well, the women dress in like sort of fetish gear, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
The guys, the guys kind of dress like I don't know what period that is. It's like Edwardian.
Regency, like 1700s.
Okay, there you go. I was off by 300 years.
You're right. But, yeah, because this is based on an actual club. They were always a real Hellfire Club.
Cool.
And it was all a bunch of aristocratic politicians and rich people who got together and did shady shit in secret.
Right.
A lot of sexual stuff, Michael.
Right.
Shady sexual stuff. And this Hellfire Club actually, though, wasn't inspired by that Hellfire Club. This Hellfire Club was created by John Byrne and Chris Claremont, and it was based on a Hellfire Club from the British TV series The Avengers.
That's right. I knew that.
Yeah, Emma Peel. Oh, what a woman. Emma Peel.
Oh, my God. Yep.
Yeah, holy hell.
Sexiest woman alive.
And Diana Rigg was the actress. But anyway, the episode with the Hellfire Club is called A Touch of Brimstone. And if you ever watch it, you can see Emma Peel dressed up as the Queen of Sin. She's basically like the Black Queen. And she's dressed pretty scandally for the 1960s.
I'm going to Google that as we speak.
Yes. And, so the Hellfire Club, the inner circle of them, the main people, like Sebastian Shaw is the Black King, right? And everyone else is named after... like chess pieces. They have a Black Rook, Black Knight, all that kind of stuff. And remember Phoenix, Jean Grey, during the whole Dark Phoenix saga, she was supposed to be the Black Queen.
Right.
And, of course, Emma Frost was the White Queen.
Right. Very cool.
In this issue, we get a couple other guys, like a guy named the Black Rook, who... what is the word I'm saying? Oh, I want to look for. He puts up Selene for acceptance into the Hellfire Club. I forget his name, Von Rome or something like that. Von Rome or something is his last name. We'll encounter him later when we go through the issue. And also, Bobby DaCosta, Sunspot, his daddy is joining the Hellfire Club.
That's right. That's right.
So look out. It's gonna, and Sebastian Shaw hopes that one day his son will join as well. So look at that. Setting the stage, Michael. Setting the stage for conflict.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's all the characters I think we need to discuss. Now this issue, also, Michael, real quick. You said last week when I asked you why you were picking this, because I thought, was this the Demon Bear saga?
Nope.
Because I've never read the Demon Bear saga, and I'd like to. And I think that was like issues 18 to 21 or something.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
18 to 20. And you said, nope, because I wanted this one because it's just like a one-shot, one and done.
Right, and of course.
And this issue is in no way a one and done.
I know. I realized that when I got to the end. Whoops-a-daisy.
Like, you read this issue, you have no fucking idea what's happening.
Right.
Like, there's so many confusing things. But it all comes together in the next issue. They reveal. So that's why I had to read ahead to figure out what the hell was going on. But anyway. So I guess that brings us to the issue, Michael.
Right. So, yeah, I guess we should talk about this cover, eh?
Yes.
I mean, there's no way to talk about this cover without briefly mentioning the artist, Bielson Kevich. We'll talk about him later, but yes, this is a beautiful painted cover by Bielson Kevich. And it just says New Mutants at the top. It's got the classic logo, and then the corner box has got Rain Sinclair with these like cartoon characters floating like around her from this story. And then the main image is the painted image of her like kind of daydreaming with this big thought bubble that's filled with this prince, and then all these like Disney-esque animals around him. And then there's like a princess. Oh, it's actually her as a princess transforming into a wolf, and they're both looking up at what looks sort of like a fantasy version of Darth Vader with a sword.
Yeah, like a real demonic-looking guy, all
right.
Black, big smile, evil eyes, and it says, "Once upon a time," the text on the cover, "Once upon a time." Yeah, you mentioned the character box, her surrounded by cartoon, but like cartoon birds and bunnies and squirrels and stuff like that. 75 cents.
Mm-hmm.
How about that? 75 cents.
Yep.
So we're getting up there closer to $1 each time. And I looked at the sales from 1984, Michael. New Mutants was a very popular book in the 84. It was It was like top 5, 6 books all the time. So
for sure, yep.
Look at that. So yeah, but Sienkiewicz, like, if you've never seen Bill Sienkiewicz's work, please go do so immediately. These covers he was doing for New Mutants are all spectacular. Right. And that's the thing, like Sienkiewicz, you'll never confuse him for someone else. You know, when you see this, you're like, oh, that's Bill Sienkiewicz.
Actually, there's one artist who came later that it sort of imitates him, Dave McKean. I don't know if you know Dave McKean. He did Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't look like Sienkiewicz to me.
Well, it's not as good.
It's painted, you know, but it's not like...
at this point, there is no one in the industry close to this at this point.
Yeah, and also we should mention we did a Sienkiewicz issue early in his career. He did Moon Knight,
right?
Issue 1. We did that. I think that was maybe the 3rd episode of Flea Market Fantasy, and he did that in 1980 when he was 22. And you could barely recognize his art as Bill Sienkiewicz.
Right.
Like, it just seemed like normal comic book art, and it wasn't all that great. But this issue here, holy hell, this is Sienkiewicz art. So in a span of 4 years, he really found his identity and his style, and it's pretty spectacular to look at. So
I agree.
And we should also say he's inking this as well.
Yes, yes.
All right, Michael, so what do we get in the big splash page?
So the big splash page, we've got... The scene is, it's Nightcrawler, but we only see pieces of, we see his feet, then we see his hands, and basically he's teaching Cannonball. He's trying to teach Cannonball a lesson, because as we know, this is the New Mutants, and they're still in school, and they're still trying to learn how to use their powers, right? So
I guess I should say, I shouldn't call this a splash page, because there's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 panels on the first page.
It's just, right.
Yeah.
It's it's very cool. It's like just broken up, so you're kind of following it as you go along, figuring out little pieces. And then he's basically teaching him on like a trapeze how to change direction mid-flight, because Cannonball's power is he can fly and he's invulnerable when he's flying, but he can't, so far, has not figured out how to change direction while he's flying. So that's what Nightcrawler's trying to teach him.
He has trouble controlling his flight path. He's pretty much a straight line guy at this point.
Right.
But I love this page though, because like you said, we only see parts of Nightcrawler. Like the first two panels are just his like from the calves down and his feet, and then we see him spitting on his hands, but we don't see his full face, just like his lips and his nose. Then we see him grabbing the trapeze bar. Then we see him pushing back on the trapeze bar, but only his arms and his legs are in the panel. Then the next panel, we see just his knee and his leg. And then in the final panel, which is the biggest of the three at the bottom, just his tail.
Yep.
He swung. We get the sense that he swung, and just his tail was left. It's pretty awesome.
It's great. I love it. Yep. And then the next page, we see him, full body. We see Cannonball behind him on this little like platform or whatever, and he kind of leaps into the air and he's doing a twirl. And what's this now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 panels, and so now he's flipping midair and changing direction, and then he teleports at the end. Bam, right? Which is awesome.
And the title is "The Shadow Within" is the title of the issue, and this is a 2-page spread.
Right.
But yeah,
Very
it's just
cool.
Nightcrawler doing aerial dynamic movements, and then on the next page he teleports back to talk to Sam Cannonball, and Cannonball's all nervous. He doesn't think he can do it. And he's got that classic Chris Claremont internal conflict going on where he's nervous about, he's supposed to be the leader. He's the oldest X-Men, or the oldest New Mutant. I think he's like 19 or something, or 20.
Right.
He's supposed to be like kind of the de facto leader just because he's older than everybody. And he's embarrassed that he can't control his powers yet. So he's real nervous.
Right.
Real nervous.
I love it. Yeah, I love the conflict. And we could talk about the art for hours. But yeah, this is great stuff. And then just as he's getting ready to start, Wolfsbane walks in. And now he's like, oh, just what I need, an audience, right? So now he's kind of like even more nervous, but she kind of blows him a kiss. And so, we get this great little experimental comic book storytelling where we see a little heart on his face with a circle with a line connected to her lips almost, right? So it's kind of cool. Yep. I love it. Like modern books like Hawkeye used to do that stuff all the time. But anyway, this was new back then. And so then we get this great shot of him. I don't know why doesn't have a shirt on, but whatever. so he starts running, and then he activates his power, and so he fires his blasting, whatever it's called, takes off, and then he's trying to change direction, and he's like, piece of cake, shoot, it ain't working, I ain't rolling right. And then basically, and by the way, he's got kind of like an Appalachian accent, right? And
yes.
Nightcrawler realizes he's not going to make it, so he teleports up and grabs him before he can hit the wall, and then he just throws him down into this net that he's put there, right? Because this is the danger room, by the way. I don't know if we mentioned that.
Yes. Yeah.
And so he's like, he's all down on himself because he can't do it. He can't change direction. He can't improve his powers, blah, blah, blah. And then also we should mention that while this was going on, Rain also has inner monologue where she was raised, I don't know if she was raised Catholic or whatever, but a very strict Christian upbringing in Scotland. And so she is convinced that Nightcrawler is evil simply because he looks like a demon. And no matter what, she can't trust him, right?
Yeah. And I love how Sienkiewicz draws Nightcrawler. Like, his form's exaggerated. Like if you look at the panel of Cannonball in the net. Right. And like you can see like the upper torso is kind of elongated and his arms are elongated. It just looks so cool.
Very, very, yep. Yeah. And then okay, so then we get this weird scene where, again, this is the danger room. For people that don't know, the danger room is kind of like the holodeck on Star Trek, where anything can. It's kind of like holograms that are real and blah blah blah. So all of a sudden, Cannonball is standing on this platform, and all of a sudden there's a clown standing there, and so then he becomes a clown, and then it's really weird because on the bottom panel, the camera switches, like it crosses the axis, as they say in film. So Cannonball jumps down and says, may I have this waltz? Or you think it's Cannonball, and says, may I have this waltz? Then Rain, who's a clown, says, I've never danced, I did not know how. And then the other taller clown that you think is Cannonball says, then my dear, it's past time you learn. So they're dancing, and she's all getting bashful. But then all of a sudden, the illusion is gone, and she realizes, oh no, it wasn't Cannonball, it was actually Nightcrawler. And so she freaks out, turns into a half wolf, and then takes off.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And,
So
and
then-
Nightcrawler just says, let her go, whatever.
Right. right.
She'll get over it at some point. But yeah, a pretty awful thing for her to do, because she can't deal with the fact that he looks like a demon.
That's right.
I mean, Michael,
Interesting.
you look like a demon, but I'm still your friend.
Yeah, you got it, man. You look past the ugly exterior, right? Anyway.
So the next, well, she goes running down the hallway in another area of the danger room, another room. I guess this is a semi-dangerous room.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it has all the technology.
Right.
But Colossus is, because Colossus and Sunspot are just standing on a padded mat in
Right.
the middle of the room, and Colossus is trying to beat him with a stick. They both have long staffs, and Colossus is trying to train Sunspot because he says, hey, I'm Colossus. I'm like made out of steel, so no one can hurt me. But you, Sunspot, you're still human. Like, even though you're strong, you're still vulnerable. So you ought to be able to take care of yourself. So you're trying to teach him how to fight with sticks.
Right.
And it's not going so well. So what does Sunspot do, Michael?
So then Sunspot, it looks like he rips up a piece of the floor. Oh no, that's the mat.
Yeah,
I thought it
they're
was
standing on the
floor.
mat.
Right. I was like, did he rip up a piece of the metal? On the floor? But no, it's just the mat. So he like trips him, and then kind of like, I don't know. You probably know what move this is, but he sort of like grabs him.
Just like a bear hug.
There you go.
Yeah, Greco-Roman,
yeah.
just grabbing him.
And then as he's flipping him, he has this hallucination where all of a sudden his hands look like demon hands, right? Kind of.
Yeah, because Colossus yells out in pain, even though
Right.
like there's no way Sunspot should be able to hurt Colossus.
Right.
Yeah, Colossus is like, hey, wait, what the hell is going on? He feels weird, and then Colossus says, it's probably just a flu. Probably
Right,
just a flu. or
right,
something,
right.
Yeah. but yeah, as you mentioned, Sunspot, and by the way, Sunspot's wearing a padded hood, like a little helmet, like boxers wear, like a sparring
Right,
helmet.
right.
So that's pretty good. But yeah, his arms look like all demonic and misshapen, and he doesn't know what's going on. And you know who else didn't know what was going on? Me.
Yeah,
no-
exactly.
And no other readers, really. You don't learn what's going on until next issue. And but we'll explain it when we get to the end, I guess.
Right.
So at this point, you're just trying to figure out what's going on with Sunspot. And then we see Rain again. She's still in her half-wolf, half-human form, and she's peeking in a window at Xavier and Moira McTaggart.
Have we talked about her before?
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
In the issue where we did the X-Men, because remember she busted in. I was like, I think that may have been her first issue. She was the housekeeper.
Right.
And remember she busted in with that M16. And they're fighting
right.
that demon.
I forgot.
It was great.
Right.
So McTaggart and Xavier are studying Warlock, who seems kind of like he's knocked unconscious, or I don't know.
Right, because I read his origin story, the Demon Bear, whatever. I don't remember exactly what happened, but yeah, he's kind of just not really. They haven't figured him out yet. They can't really communicate with him, right? They're still trying to figure things out.
Yeah, because he's not like completely comatose, because like an eye pops up, he makes an eye pop up, and then
Right.
he absorbs some organic matter from a glass to
Right.
get energy from it.
Yeah, so there's
But
some exposition here, teaching the reader how he eats, basically, telling the reader.
Yeah, but it's not like he's interacting with him, like you said. They don't know how to communicate with him, so he's just kind of like lying on a table.
Right.
And so
Right.
she wants to talk to them, but Xavier says, "Hey, Rain, how about you hit the bricks? We're kind of busy."
Right. Exactly.
So
she
has
takes
to run
off.
away, and now she's a full wolf, turned
That's
into
right.
a full wolf.
Yep. She's got 3 forms.
Yep.
And then she goes she goes over to Daniel Moonstar's room to kind of like see if she can chat. And Danny is on the phone with her parents, right? Yeah, her folks.
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Colorado. So they're kind of shooting the shit. And she's like, yeah, Rain, where are you going? So Rainy gets all impatient with her, takes off. And then, so we get some thoughts there from her. Because, again, you mentioned earlier that Sam is the oldest, and he's kind of the leader, but she's also, like, the leader. It says in here...
Yeah, she's like the real leader.
Right.
You know?
She's the actual leader, exactly.
Because she has, like, the technical ability, the strategic ability,
Right.
and the courage and all that you want in a leader. But Sam's just the oldest, so
Exactly.
he feels like he should be a leader.
Right.
But I love Danny Moonstar.
Oh,
she's one of my
great.
favorites.
Me too. So then we cut over to, this is now the Hellfire Club, right?
Yep,
And
Park Avenue, New York City.
Right.
Well, I don't know. Is this the Hellfire Club or no? This is just that Von Rome guy owns a business, like a.
Oh, you're right. This is before that. Right.
Yes.
So this is, what's her name? Selena? Is it Selena or Serena?
Celine.
So Selene is talking to this guy. And
this is Herr Frederick Von Rome, the Black Rook of the Hellfire Club.
Right. And she shows him this jewel thing. What is it?
I don't know, just like a jewel thing.
Yeah.
But when he looks at it, he sees that she's Selene.
Right.
The Dark Priestess.
He bows down in worship, right? After 2 millennia, our goddess has returned.
Yep.
So then they're sitting there chilling, and then we and then we cut over to the actual Hellfire Club. And because he's basically, she's like, I need like a headquarters, and he's like, I got the perfect place for you. It's called the Hellfire Club, and all you need is to be really rich. So then we cut over to the Hellfire Club, and now we see Sebastian Shaw and Roberto's father. What's his name? I don't even remember. But whatever his name is, but this
Jimmy?
is Roberto's. Emmanuel.
Oh,
Emmanuel da Costa. So that's so they're shooting the shit. and then we cut back to Xavier's school, and now this is Amara, aka what's her name? Magma, swimming with Roberto da Costa, aka Sunspot. And then while they're swimming, we see Rain, who's kind of like, I don't know, she's doing homework or whatever, but she's like sitting kind of out the window.
She's writing her little fairy tale.
Oh yeah, this is where she's doing her fairy tale, right? And so she's trying to think of a name for her main character, and then she thinks of it, and we see that it's Alystra, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, Alystra. So we cut over, so we see what she's written, and then we cut to her, daydream of what this is. And so we see this like princess that's obviously supposed to be her, except probably older with like long red hair. And
and she's all pretty and stuff. And
right. Yeah, because the whole idea, I just want to say, it's a really cool thing about her is that she's always been like a tomboy, right? Like short hair and kind of.
Yeah, and she's very self-conscious about it as well.
Right.
She wishes she was like pretty and all that stuff.
Right.
And we should say Sienkiewicz draws all this kind of like a Disney animated movie, like like you mentioned, all the animals and stuff. So he changes his style here to draw this, and it's pretty cool.
Very cool, right? So it's almost like a Cinderella thing. So she's got all these animals, they're like doing laundry, and then this Prince Duncan comes in, and he collapses, and so of course again she is basically Rain, so she turns into a wolf to go and figure out what's going on. And now, even though it's a fairy tale, in like a Disney fairy tale, now all of a sudden she's kind of like in a cartoon version of like New York City. And she's
and things get very dark here.
Right.
There's rain, it's lightning, and she encounters a taxi cab that's kind of demonic, and it comes to life.
That's like an actual monster face and teeth on it, right? And then she sees someone else he looks less Darth Vader-esque, but this is the bad guy we talked about on the cover. He's kind of like this knight. It looks like a knight with shining armor on, but he's obviously evil.
Yeah, all black armor and a blue cape.
Right.
And then there's a lady all in white dancing next to him, and she's wearing a necklace. And this is when I started to think, wait a minute, is this Cloak and Dagger? Why is this? What's going on here?
Right.
Yeah.
And I know they're coming because I looked ahead at the covers.
Yep.
But anyway. So then, basically, so she like leaps on this woman in white to attack, and then the man in black attacks her, and then there's this big, it's like it becomes almost impressionistic, like a big monster face, like coming at her, and then she's just about to wake up, and I was just about to find out what was going to happen, and the issue ends.
Yes. And we see Rain sleeping with a necklace wrapped around her right wrist as she's sleeping. And we should say, I don't know if we made this clear, but the Duncan guy, or whatever that guy's name was, the prince, he fell sick, and she knew that these two people were responsible. That's why she went to New York to track them down, and then she attacks them, and then the issue ends.
Right.
So I was like, well, I'm glad this is a one and done, and I understood everything. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah. Oops.
So I did read ahead.
Okay.
Did you read ahead at all?
I've read it before, but I don't remember what happens.
Okay, well, I guess a few issues before this, they encountered Cloak and Dagger. And the way Cloak and Dagger got their powers, they were subjected to some sort of a chemical or serum or something.
Okay.
Rain... Okay, so I've never read Cloak and Dagger.
Yeah, they were experimented on with like a gang that would basically gave them drugs and to force them to get powers, but then or force them to do something, and they ended up realizing they had powers, so they're kind of mutants, and they end up tracking down all drug dealers and trying to kill them. That's basically their origin. Okay,
and so when the New Mutants encountered them, Rain and Sunspot also became subjected to this same serum. They were also injected with it or something. I don't know how or why or whatever. Mm-hmm. So in her little fairy tale that she's imagining, that prince is Sunspot. And he's sick. And she knows deep down that Cloak and Dagger are responsible. And so in her fantasy and her dream, she goes and attacks them. Well, it turns out, in next issue, in real life, Rain did attack them, I guess. And in a fantasy world of some sort. And Cloak and Dagger lost their powers. And now their powers have been transferred to Rain and Sunspot. And that's why Sunspot had the demonic arms, because he's now being taken... He's being taken over by Cloak's dark dimensional powers.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So that comes out next issue, and then it still doesn't get resolved. So
of course not.
I think it's one more after that.
Chris Claremont. That's how he got kept people hooked, right?
Yeah, I mean that's fine. Like if you just read this issue by itself, you'd want to like that ending. You're just like, wait, what? That's the ending?
Right.
Right. All right. Fair enough. But yeah, so it all makes sense if you read ahead. But
here's the thing. I do love Chris Claremont, but one of the problems he had over the years is that his quote cliffhangers got to the point where it just seemed like you ran out of pages. Now, this has a little bit of a cliffhanger in that, you see the amulet thing, right? So you're like, wait a minute, I thought that was in a dream, blah, blah, blah. So that's cool. But it comes so suddenly that you're reading it and you're like, I can't wait to turn the page and what? It's over? It doesn't feel like the ending of or even of a cliffhanger. It doesn't feel like, right? It just that's Shadow Man.
That's exactly the reaction I had. What? It's over?
Right.
Because it also seemed a little short. But Maiko, after the book ends, we get a little bonus. We get some bonus features.
Yes.
We get one-page pinups of Rain as Wolfsbane,
right?
Danny Moonstar, and Magma, and it's like just a one-page, like we said, pinup art, and then like Claremont provides some descriptions of the characters.
Right, very cool. And then if you skip to the next issue, and I think the issue before, you can see all of the characters. Yeah,
it's pretty awesome. Anytime you get to see more Sienkiewicz art, it's worth it.
I agree.
These are all great. I love the way he draws Rain as a wolf.
Yeah.
All jaggy-haired and
it's great.
Crazy.
Yep, I agree.
Big teeth and claws.
And look how he draws Rain, just awesome. So it's just such contrast there. It's great.
Yep, like a little innocent girl.
Right.
And then the big menacing wolf. And so all right. So let's talk about the writing here. Claremont. We mentioned the ending. It's a little sudden, but we get all the internal conflicts and stuff with Rain and Cannonball, so that's classic Claremont stuff. We get to see Colossus and Nightcrawler, Charles Xavier, Moira McTaggart. We get to see a little bit of Warlock. There's a lot going on here. Mm-hmm. We know something's going on with Rain, and we know a little something's going on with Sunspot. So is it enough for you to keep reading, Michael? Although you didn't, will you? Will you read the next one?
I'll tell you right now, I have actually made my way to number 67 or whatever of New Mutants, but just reading this, it makes me want to go back and read these early ones again.
Yeah,
So,
Claremont wrote the first 54 issues of New Mutants.
right,
And keep in mind, this is also when he's doing X-Men and a bunch of other stuff. So,
right.
and he also did issue 63, 81 in the first 3 annuals.
Mm-hmm.
So that's impressive. First
Very.
54 issues. And again, the writing here is fine. You're not going to understand everything going on. Just realize that this is a setup issue. Like I said, it is a self-contained story, not so much. But if you just buy into the fact that they're setting up other things, it's good.
Yeah, like a lot of people, it's funny because, I think everybody thinks the generation of comics after they stop reading is crap, including me. But, then you meet people in the generation after me that, they started reading Spider-Man during the Clone Saga. And you're like, how could you possibly like Spider-Man then? But then again, the generation before us, they thought Claremont peaked in the late 70s and that everything after Dark Phoenix was crap, right? Whereas this is the era that I grew up in, right? Early New Mutants, X-Men around 200, that's my era. And so for me, even if the plotting is not as exciting as like the Dark Phoenix era, it's like you said, you got the inner conflict with the characters, and even though the plot doesn't come to a resolution, I'm enjoying everything that I'm reading,
Yeah, and I think the next issue, we get more Hellfire Club, and there's also conflict between Sebastian and Selene, because he senses that she wants to take over power from him already. So we get more of that stuff going on. So yeah, he does good stuff here, but if you're looking for an exciting comic book, this ain't it.
No.
All right, this is not it. So just accept it.
Yeah, right.
All right, so the art, Bielson Kevich, we went through his career when we did the Moon Knight, but he drew New Mutants issue 18 to 31, and then he did issues 35 to 38, and that was from 1984 to 1986. And like we said, this is fully developed Bielson Kevich right here.
Right.
This is pretty great. He's 26 years old here.
Wow.
And he's in his prime.
Mm-hmm.
That Moon Knight, he was 22, and that was one of his first things he did at Marvel.
Right.
So 4 years later, and he is just, a magician.
Mm-hmm.
He's so good.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I was a big fan of this art, Michael. I don't know. Talk about it.
I'm a huge fan. I've always loved his art. Yeah, I could look at this for hours. It's just, I don't know. I love the texture. I love his sense of design.
Yeah, each panel, it's almost like it's a single designed image. For each, he doesn't have the panel to panel flow of Kirby or Buscema or stuff like that, but each panel seems so well designed and so intricate, thought out.
Right.
Like a graphic design approach.
100%.
I think would be a good way of saying it. And his lines are very angular, and I just love it. Just love it. And the way he inks it too, this really gives New Mutants a cool feel, a definite style. And what do I want to say? Almost like a arcane or esoteric or some sort of a darker feel to it.
Right.
An uncanny feel, the uncanny X-Men. You really feel like these people are weird.
Yep.
Actually,
that's a good point because it's like the art style is reflecting the angst of the characters, the shadow, Nightcrawler in shadow, looking down at the controls for the danger room and the shadows around Cannibal's face, and it's just amazing. I also love the way he contrasts, that great shot on page 5 of Cannonball running. You notice that the detail of his legs is actually just the motion of where he's running. But that's only in the black part of his costume. In the yellow part of his costume, it's just the outline, So he's really good at contrasting heavy detail and shadow with just nothing, with an outline, It's just really cool, the choices he makes.
Yeah, like I said, I love the way he draws Nightcrawler, Wolfsbane, Sunspot is even cool. Because it's just a silhouette, so the way he does the angular body poses really plays in the silhouette. His Danny Moonstar is great. His Selene is spectacular because she's all black and angles, and it's awesome. Yeah, I just love it, Michael. I love it.
Me too.
Big fan. So I don't know. What else to say about this, Michael?
I don't know. I guess, especially considering he only did how many issues total?
I already moved on. 18 to 34, or when was it? Issue 18 is when he started, and he went to 31, and then he did issues 35 to 38.
So however the hell many issues that is, it's easy.
About 18 issues.
Yeah,
About
it's
18
easy to read them all. Like if you wanted to get a New Mutants crash course, you could just read those issues, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I probably will. No, I probably will go back and read these. I want to read the Demon Bear.
Have to, yeah.
Because I just always remember that iconic panel of the bear, you know, standing,
giant,
Danny Moonstar standing in front of that giant bear with the claws.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I want to see that. But there you go. Yeah, not much to say about this issue. You can't really break it down too much because not much goes on.
No, I guess, there's not much to talk about other than the characterization. Like, I love the characterization of everybody, like, you can't really argue with that, especially since Chris Claremont created them all. He's great at creating characters. It's funny because I don't want to diss Louise Simonson, but I always kind of thought that she was on par with Claremont. But now that I'm reading her run, this is night and day. Like, this is much better in my opinion.
And we should also mention that earlier when we did, I think it was 6 or 5 or whatever the fuck it was. Remember it was like an after-school special?
Right.
Yeah, like this is like an actual X-Men comic book.
Yeah,
kind of,
it's funny because whenever Claremont teams up with like Paul Smith or Bill Sienkiewicz or Barry Windsor Smith, it's like his comics all of a sudden become much more adult, I find. It's like he really knows how to adapt to his artist,
There's probably an editorial change too. They probably said, "Hey, we got to get this more like X-Men."
You know what I mean? Well, it's funny. I didn't know this until years later, but so I read an interview where Ann Nocenti basically said, "Yes, I fired Sal Buscema, and it was the hardest thing I ever did because he was like a veteran at Marvel, but his art was too old-fashioned." And so I saw Bill Sienkiewicz's art, and I was like, "This is who we've got to have on New Mutants." And so, unfortunately, she had to fire him. Well, then years before that, I read a story where someone asked Sal Buscema why he completely changed his style. I don't know if you remember this, but Sal Buscema in the 70s was basically like a standard Marvel artist, right? Like if you saw his art, it wouldn't even be recognizable as Sal Buscema. But if you look at his art post 86, 85, he looks a lot like Bielson Kevich. And he basically said that he was consciously imitating his art. But I didn't know until later that he was fired off New Mutants to be replaced by Bielson Kevich. So I don't know if it was consciously, him thinking, I'm going to show them, I'm going to draw like Bill Sienkiewicz, but that's basically what he was doing. So. Well,
but it was a perfect decision by Ann Nocenti because, like I said, Sienkiewicz gave this book like a young, youthful edge,
right?
It made it stand out from everything else Marvel was doing at the time too.
I still love the Bob McLeod and Sal Buscema, but this is what gave it its identity.
Yep.
Yeah,
this is spectacular stuff in terms of the art.
Mm-hmm.
But overall though, what would you give this issue?
It's a tough one. As a chapter, I'd give it an 8, but as a comic book, I'd give it a 7.
Yeah, I think I'll go 7 as well. The story's just there's nothing really to bite your teeth into in terms of the story, but get it for the art. Go read it for the art.
Right.
It's awesome.
100%.
So.
Yep.
Well, that was quick. It seems like a quick episode, Mike.
Yeah, well, because the story was very short, right? It ends mid, story, and like you said, nothing happens. We both liked it, so there's nothing to debate about. So, but now we're ready for the movie, right?
Yeah. Will you see the movie? I'm sure it'll be available streaming, right?
I'm sure in some form or another, I'll be able to see it. Online. That's the plan anyway.
Now, what do you mean some form? Pay the $10, Micah. What do you mean some form or another?
Well, maybe. We'll see. But put it this way. At some point in the next week, you will see a review from the Comic Book Syndicate. So.
Oh, all right.
Yep.
Very good. Will Jolie be taking part in this review?
Oh, yeah, 100%. She'll be the one who, ascertains the format of however we see this movie, put it that way. She's very good at that.
Oh, she's very good at pirating things?
Yes,
come on, Jolie.
Exactly.
Will Bex Luthor be partaking?
Absolutely, 100%.
The curmudgeon, will he be partaking?
The curmudgeon, no one's seen him since 2010.
That's a shame.
Yep.
That's a shame. All right, Michael. So next week, it's my pick.
Woo!
And we are going to go with, from 1977, The Inhumans, issue 9.
Is this Kirby?
Issue 9. Yes.
Oh, nice.
Because here it is. It's kind of a weird backstory here for this issue. The Inhumans had their own series. It lasted 12 issues.
Okay.
This is issue 9. But this issue is just a reprint of the first 2 issues of Amazing Adventures 1 and 2 from 1970. But I didn't want to pick Amazing Adventures because those issues were split. Like, it would be half Inhumans, half Black Widow. And I wanted to just focus on the Inhumans. So here, this reprint issue actually gives us the entire story from those first 2 issues, and it's just the Inhumans. It's written and drawn by Jack Kirby.
Nice. This is number.
And so even though
9?
Issue 9, Inhumans, 1977. And even though this is, from their actual regular series, it is a reprint from the earlier stuff. But that earlier stuff was still 1970, so that's still Bronze Age.
You got it. This is the opening splash page is my favorite image ever, like drawn by a human. You know what I mean? Like,
wow.
It's so good.
Yeah. But the other interesting thing is on the cover of this issue, it has that guy I was telling you about with the afro and the sideburns and the mustache, and he's a Kree warrior. But that cover has nothing to do with the content of this issue.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm guessing they missed their deadline or something.
Right.
Like that cover, it ties into the ongoing storyline, but has nothing to do with this issue. So then in issue 10, they're back to original content, which features that guy on the cover.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I don't know what happened, but
okay.
They must have missed the deadline. But yeah, this will be our first time to actually talk Jack Kirby.
Sweet.
So how about that?
I'm looking forward to it. In fact, I think I have the original issue here somewhere.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
But anyway. All right.
So,
huh?
I didn't even know the Inhumans had their own series, and they only lasted 12 issues, and then they really weren't heard of again for a very long time.
Right. Yeah.
But we'll talk about them next week.
Woo!
The Inhumans.
All right.
Yeah.
So we do a different Bronze Age comic every week. That's a comic published between 1970 and 1989. One week Mike Dell picks, the next week I pick. So yeah, you never know what you're going to get. It's always a cliffhanger, just like a Chris Claremont story.
Yes.
And just when it's getting exciting, we pull the plug, right? Just so you want more for next week. Anyway.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I guess that's it. So until next Tuesday, disperse!